It's just about 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Everybody from the board is here. We're going to go ahead and do approval of minutes. Oh, yes. Are there any oral communications?
I haven't received any.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to approval of minutes.
I move to approve. Second.
Sorry, I had the wrong one selected. If you could just vote again. Yeah, you guys are ready to move on?
Yes, if everybody's voting.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Minutes were approved 5-0.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to current business. We have updates from the city of Escondido presented by Robert. And
Yep.
is Ed, not Ed, just you?
No,
Okay.
just me today. So at the last meeting, you requested some information, so I have that for you. One of the things that you requested was the consideration of an increase in the collections budget. That item was presented to the city manager. The response was the collections budget will be addressed in the coming fiscal year's budget process. The other item that you had requested was a review of the trust and the various items that was distributed. That's a much bigger process than what we anticipated, and therefore we're going to need a little bit more time. We expect to have a more full report for you at the November 13th meeting. And then the last item I wanted to touch on was the project for the library. We will be doing a walkthrough for the Board of Trustees just prior to the November 13th meeting, and that will be at 2:30. It will be at the main library. We'll be doing a construction walkthrough. If you are going to participate, we do request that you wear closed-toed shoes. You cannot wear any type of open sandal, flip-flop, or anything like that, so that would be required. We'll be reviewing the variety of different spaces that we have available. A lot of the framing work has now been completed, which is really great. A lot of the interior work, as far as the plumbing and a lot of the electrical, is also going into place. Now, by the time the 13th rolls around, it is entirely possible that we may have some drywall up as well. So those spaces will start to look as though they're starting to come together. At the last meeting, I understand that I had committed to you to having renderings available for you. Unfortunately, our architect was not ready to have those renderings available, but they have told us those renderings will be ready and available for you at the next meeting, which I think actually will be really perfect considering you have just walked through, and so you will have a much better visualization of the space. So we'll be able to present those 3D model renderings for you at the November 13th meeting. As far as some of the construction work that is currently going on, we have encountered a minor issue that we are having to deal with, and that minor issue is the fact that there is no backflow device on going into the library right now. So backflow devices is to prevent any type of water backflow into our drinking water system. Unfortunately, this was not the case. Backflow devices were becoming mandatory in a lot of construction projects between 1977 and 1984. This building was built in 1981, so it's kind of interesting to figure out why that wasn't added. So we are in the process of adding that backflow device. The water to the campus building, the campus itself, which is all the buildings there on that particular block, will be shut off on Monday, and though that construction will take place on Monday going forward. So it's added a little bit to the cost, but not terribly much, so that'll be a part of the contingency, something, again, that we had anticipated going forward. Otherwise, that is all the updates that I have for you right now at this time. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
One quick one on the trust fund. So we're still looking for when it was approved to do the literacy.
That's correct, yes. And so the staff is looking into that. Unfortunately, we have done a quick review of the last couple of years of all of the different meeting agenda minutes, but we suspect it goes back much farther than that when that was potentially approved, and that's sort of why we have to go back a little bit farther. We're also reaching out to some of the previous staff and city representatives that were a part of the board at that time to be able to determine if they have a recollection of when that potentially had happened. And then we may also have to work with the city clerk's office to dive a little bit more into some of the archived materials.
Yeah, for sure it's before 2019. Ron Giles might be a good source of information.
That's great to know.
Can you remind me, I know Ed was talking about he was trying to, I forgot what the word is, so additional costs that were coming up, and that a lot of that was going to go back to the contractors. Do you know when we would get a timeline of where we are now budget-wise, considering a lot of those change orders? There you go.
Yeah, I don't have specific information about the change orders themselves. I know that the city is considering adding additional monies to this particular project specifically for windows. So one of the things, the windows were included, a portion of the windows were included in this particular project, but not all the windows were included in the project. So we're anticipating going to the city council sometime in November to add some additional monies to the project for that. And then as we get a little bit closer, because some of the contingency is being eaten up by some of these change orders that we are doing, we may need to look at what is feasible for us to do versus what is not feasible for us to do. However, the windows themselves, we know for certain that we are interested in doing the windows. And that would include all of the first floor, making them from single pane to dual pane, energy efficient windows, as well as resetting some of the framing, because right now they're very large plate glass windows, single pane. And so what we would do is we'd split those up and frame them much more than what they are currently.
And you said this was for the first floor?
Majority of the first floor, and then on the second floor, one corner of the building apparently also did not, the windows were not included initially.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Quick question down here. So with the backflow project, do you have an estimate of how long that might take? And will that block progress on anything?
It will not block progress. We anticipate that only taking a day. So
Okay.
we're looking at Monday. It's about a 12-hour project. So the water will go off at approximately 8 a.m. and come back on at approximately 8 p.m. The city staff is the one that's taking care of that from our utilities department. So we are taking care of that internally. So that's not affecting the budget.
Cool, thank you.
Robert, I have a question on the collections budget. So when does the city start looking at budget items? Because I think the fiscal year starts June 1st, so what does that budget process look like?
So our fiscal year starts July 1st.
July 1st.
And so we actually start working on budgets within various departments as early as February. So that's when we're going to start working on those budgets. However, I do know in the conversations we've had previously in talking about when we are looking to open the contract with LS&S, that will likely occur. And again, I can't tell you for certain, but that will likely occur at the end of November, beginning of December, when we start having those conversations.
Is there anything that we need to do to ensure the collection budget becomes an item when they're looking at the yearly budget? Or like, do we have to keep bringing it up a few months before and either reminder?
I think you as a board have made it very clear this is an important priority for you. Myself and Reno are very well aware of that. I've also been working with the LS&S Vice President, Heidi Delamore, as well. And so we are all aware of what that looks like and what you'd like to do. So it would not be necessary for you to do that. However, what I will commit to you to doing is continuing to share this with you as far as where we are in the process and what that does look like.
Okay, that sounds good, thank you.
Okay, I just want to add a couple things. I forgot to ask that an agenda item be created for this meeting, so I've already asked for it for the next meeting, that we discuss among ourselves using trust funds to augment the budget shortfall through the remainder of the fiscal year, but it's not on the agenda, so that'll come up next month.
But John, I was going to ask, same thing, I was
Yeah.
thinking the same thing. I was going to ask Reno, like, to create a wish list budget, especially for like the grand opening of like how much would you like to use out of the trust funds and for what? Like if we could present that next meeting and discuss that.
Okay.
I can for sure work on a wish list item in consultation with our collections management team, and we can give you kind of a ballpark of what we would expect as far as different age groups and what we can do for like an opening day or a mini opening day collection is what we can consider for sure. And I think I can probably get that by the November meeting. And if I can't, I'll be sure to update the board beforehand. But I think it's very feasible to have that ready.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and as far as the collection budget and the LS&S contract, it's pretty much whatever the city dictates, and LSS might make recommendations, but it's the city call.
And so you talked about how LS&S, in addition to these budget conversations, basically like November, December, tied to LS&S, February for more of the city's just annual process and fee. And can you remind me again, LS&S, when we have to, confirm everything? If we're starting the initial discussions then, but when does everything have to be?
Right, so their contract is up June 30th of 2026, so we will need to have something in place prior to that time. As with previous year time contract we have, we went to the city council in June to make sure that was in place by the start of the new fiscal year. And so we would be giving ourselves approximately 6 months to have those conversations with LS&S.
Thank you.
Robert, I would be giving the 6 months to have conversations with LS&S. So is the conversation that they would have some sort of like first right to refusal, or does providing services to the library end up opening up to like a bid?
While I can't specifically speak for what the city council and the city manager would do, it is within their purview to make that, give us as city staff that direction. It is not my understanding at this time for us to open up a bid. It is my understanding that we would like to continue those services at this time.
Got it. Thank you.
Glad to hear it.
Okay, thank you, Robert. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item. So this is a discussion of Library Trust Fund for Q4, and Rena will be presenting.
Oh, actually, this should be the authorization of library trust funds. Were you looking at the previous
Oh,
agenda?
sorry. Yes, authorization to use library trust funds for FF&E for the library infrastructure project. And that will be Reno and Robert.
I'll provide a quick overview of the current status of the project. As the board will recall, we had a community workshop a couple of weeks back where we went over with the community members, the foundation principally, and the Friends of the Library were also in attendance as far as remaining unfunded items specific to the second floor. Based on the feedback of the board members in attendance, our direction was to prepare this report and recommendation with just the items that are not committed to be funded by the foundation. In addition, this budget represented here does not include a contingency as requested by the board. Currently, the proposed expenditure is $60,170.25 for the FF&E. Attached to the report, you'll find the latest quote from GM, which is this gray section. For your reference and convenience, I did also include the other two updated quotes that outline what the foundation has stated they were planning to fund. So that their total is around $102,000 for the remaining FF&E, which covers the children's space, public, and the children's staff areas. So currently, what this report and recommendation ask for is for the staff areas on the second floor, servicing primary literacy staff, the literacy classroom, which is one of the few public spaces covered by this quote, and then one staff member in administration, which is our marketing coordinator. That is what you see here in the quote, and that is what this recommendation is based on. So right now, we're seeking your review and approval for that $60,000 and change. I open the floor to any questions or concerns.
Just clarifying, then, the Community Foundation took a couple of the items that were originally on this list off and said, we'll fund them.
That is correct.
And I believe there was another item that city agreed could be done under the contract.
The items that could potentially be done under the contract, which would have been the study pods or the study pod replacement.
Well, that's the first floor.
Also on the second floor, what we call the literacy pods.
Okay.
Those ones have been removed. Those were similar to these Canvas workstations. Those are no longer included.
Okay, well, looks good to me.
Reno, for the items that the foundation was interested in funding, are you having direct conversations with them, or how are we doing that?
Yes, I also had this question. The foundation will have to commit in writing to what amount they would like to fund. That'll have to be done before an upcoming council deadline. I believe it's the November 9th, or Robert knows specifically.
Yeah, so this would be going to the city council for acceptance of their donation on November 5th.
Fifth, yes. And so I'm working with them to make sure they understand the deadlines and the expectations. And then the city shortly thereafter, once it's accepted by council, then they'll have to write a check to the city.
Okay.
Okay, since the head of the Library Foundation is a retired assistant city manager, I think he'll take care of it.
Do we roughly know if we approved $251,000 from the trust fund already, and the $60,000 now that we're asking for today? Do you know about what the total will bring us to left over?
left over in the trust,
Yeah.
or that I'd have to pull up from our past agenda, actually. We had around 600,000 in the trust.
Okay, so leave us around 300 more. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
But if you would like the numbers after this meeting, I can.
I have the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you. How's that in here?
I just want to, do you want to take a second to look at it, Virginia?
No, I'm good, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Thank you, Reno. I appreciate how you broke it down between what's being asked of us and what we're expecting the foundation to take over from there. Next, we will move on to the statistics report. And,
Do we need a vote?
oh, sorry.
Yes, you
Okay.
will. We do ask that you vote to either authorize or not authorize, hopefully.
I motion to approve to use the trust fund to cover the $60,170.25 to purchase the unfunded items for the second floor.
I second.
Approved 5-0.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move to statistics report presented by Reno.
All right. I don't have much to update on. I will mention that based on the direction from the board at last month's meeting, I have now included Overdrive Libby stats and Hoopla stats broken down underneath our digital materials statistic, so you can see there. As you can tell, Overdrive is essentially a supermajority of all digital material checkouts. Hoopla is then second place, and then we've got a number of other online resources that aren't broken down but add in numbers in the 50 to 200 range per month. And those are primarily our Chilton's automobile resource that is used substantially here in Escondido, as well as other supporting items such as the Palace Project, which is kind of an alternative to Overdrive Libby, but is still just now gaining popularity, so it's not reaching the numbers of Hoopla or Overdrive at this point. Checkouts continue steady. August typically sees a nice dip, but we're staying fairly consistent as compared with July. And digital materials continue to steadily increase month over month. Our Link Plus checkouts continue steady in the 300 range each month, as do our registrations. Trying to see if there's anything noteworthy. If you're curious about the drop in programs from July to August, of course, July is our busiest month with summer reading. And then typically in August, we take 1 or 2 weeks for staff to rest from story times and programs to then prepare for our fall and winter schedule of events. Any questions as far as the statistics report this month?
I do have one question here. I noticed from June to August, 2,000 more total registered borrowers. That's a significant increase of people interested in the library. Is the 98,000 the highest it's been in recent years?
Yes, it has been the highest. I'll mention that that number doesn't get cleared out very quickly, as more people join typically than their cards expire and don't renew. But yes, we are at the highest moment right now.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Reno. I think we can go ahead and move on to the library's director report.
All right. So for this month, I did want to prepare a brief overview of a larger report that I prepared for the city, which is comparing the statistics from last year and this year during the summer months, so we can see what changes have happened from being in the downtown library to the mall location. Overall, key takeaways are here. While we did have the total number of summer visits decline, a lot of that was attributed to the fact that that first month of June was still people learning where the library was and that we were open. And then other than that, the attendance, the visits have stayed very steady and above 20,000 per month. So we're exceeding still the average attendance from the prior fiscal year. We've now have a little bit more data as far as who is getting library cards at the mall. Escondido is still the majority, so we still received 65% of all new physical library cards were from Escondido, but we did see a substantial increase from San Diego and the unincorporated areas near the mall. So that grew the most. But that being said, we received more Escondido cards during the months at the mall, but because overall all new cards grew, it still only accounted for 65%. That being said, checkouts remained at 88% versus 89%, still Escondido. So what that tells me is that we are getting more incidental signups from the San Diego region, but the people actually checking things out and using the library are Escondido residents still. Account updates, which is a proxy for renewals, that also stayed fairly the same. It just showed that 77% of those that came to the library to either update their account or change an account, usually it's renewals or it could be a change of address. That fell from 82 to 77% being Escondido, but overall, the rates of engagement, so those changes were higher or at the same level as in the prior years. Also note that last year's summer reading program and all our metrics from last year were at peak level for our services at the downtown branch, or location, I should say. And so we're comparing a transitionary period at the new location versus peak best of case scenario at the downtown library. So keep that in mind when reviewing the data. What we're doing next in these coming months is based on this initial review of data, we found that there were certain neighborhoods in Escondido that were seeing more card signups than we had seen in the past. So what this is initially telling me is that because the mall is acting as an attractor for the community, we're getting different neighborhoods in Escondido that might visit the mall, but might not make it to downtown or to the library specifically just to go to the library. Whereas if they're at the mall, they might be able to stop by and actually check out and register there. Specifically, we saw more neighborhood registrations in North Escondido and then South Escondido, so outside the core of the downtown, which is traditionally where we see our strongest base of support for the downtown location. In the coming months, we're going to be looking at using outside data sources to figure out exactly which areas of Escondido are seeing that change and to see if it's substantial enough to say that it is because of the mall location that we're getting new patrons and not from any other outside reason. Say, because the library is more popular, because we're doing a lot of outreach events. So we have to try to figure out which is the source and not just because it's the location. But yeah, I think the main takeaway for everyone, yes, we had a lot more card signups. We're still record high. We had to order more library cards. Majority is still Escondido residents as far as the use. But yes, we did have an increase also in San Diego-based users. But they just haven't checked out, as of right now, as much as Escondido residents. Any questions on this section before I move on to my highlights?
I had a question. Can you remind me about the timeline for account renewals? Is it annual? I forget. I think
It's every 3 years.
Every 3. Mm-hmm. Have you heard? So I have experienced this, and then also anecdotally from others, the need, where it's actually come up to need to renew it more frequently, like in terms of resetting your PIN kind of when you go and visit? Have you found that? Or it's really supposed to only be 3 years and maybe that's an oddity, or?
No, the truth is that most patrons don't touch their library account until they can no longer use it. A lot of library account users should update it for like the PIN. If they forget, that does count. Some will update it for phone, sometimes email, but mostly it's once you hit those 3-year marks, that's when people come in to renew.
Thanks.
Or when they turn 18.
Just piggybacking on that question, is it 3 years of not having used like a checkout or a digital service, or is it just 3 years that you haven't gone into your account?
It's 3 years once, and typically it's when you get the library card, we have the library card registration date, and it's from that date, the system automatically kicks in a 3-year reminder, and that's when the account gets put on pause until they come in to update. We are, of course, open if the board would like to recommend a policy change as far as the frequency. I have learned that other neighboring libraries have a much shorter turnaround than the 3 years. I think the 3 years is based on balancing out convenience for patrons while also keeping it doable for staff to be able to follow up. But nowadays, it's all very automated, so it's not like staff are having to go in to call people and remind people that their accounts are due. Everything nowadays is either via email or text if they've opted in.
Got it, okay, thank you.
All right, if there's no more questions, I can move on to our highlights. We had a few memorable events in September, chief of which I was very happy of the partnership and work that went into the Building Bridges, there should be an S there, Career and Community Fair that was held at the mall. So this was in partnership with, of course, the mall staff and San Diego Workforce Partnership to have, was nearly 50, but we had 43 local employers there at the mall tabling, and we had at least 200 job seekers stop by. So this really showed what happens when the library works together with the mall and our community partners to bring a service that might not have otherwise happened at the mall. I was very happy to see that, as well as a very well-attended resume workshop with 24 participants. In the past, we'd see more in the neighborhood of 10 to 15, so nearly double the usual numbers. That might also tell us about how the economy is doing and how jobs are doing versus how well we did as far as marketing, but I like to believe that our team did a great job at marketing the events this year. So those are our big highlights. Adult programs continue to develop and grow. We're using both the floor and event space at the mall, as well as a community room on the second floor for the quieter programs like our book clubs. Overall, feedback from staff and community members has been very strong as far as programming and what that looks like at the mall. Looking over to our youth highlights, there's a couple of things I want to note. Our Pause to Read program, which brings trained dogs that are there for therapy and allows children and teens and adults, if they want, to read to them. You'll see photos on our Instagram and Facebook of very happy people reading to them. And I really like that program at the mall because it's very visible. And so even if you weren't expecting to read to a dog, we saw families stop by and kind of either say hi or read them a few lines from a story. So again, showing that change in visibility for some of these programs. We also restarted our Español los sábados, Spanish on Saturdays, story time, so it's our bilingual story time, and we had 60 attendees in the first session. Also showing me that we've had a good uptick in our children's Spanish and bilingual collections while at the mall. I don't have a lot of data on how much, but I have seen, just as I'm looking at other data, that I was happy to see that those items are circulating strongly at the mall. Here we can see a kind of a breakdown of the month sessions, again, our toddler tales are most popular storytime sessions, usually ranging around 80 plus attendees, with the highest attendance being 120 last month. Tween programs and team programs continue to be strong, and I will mention that the Knights Realm Chess Club did restart in September, and we are doing that, I believe, once or twice a month, and that is more limited because we have had to find a new volunteer mentor for that program, and I believe when they're not in, staff are taking it over. Last but not least, since moving to the mall, we've been doing some internal staff changes to prioritize community engagement and outreach. So you'll see the library a lot more frequently out in the community at events such as, of course, Grape Day, but we were also in attendance at the fire station before opening. And our goal here is not only to get staff retrained and better used to being out in the community, but having more of a staff there. In the past, it was primarily our youth services team that was out in engagement. We now have adult services dedicated to actually going out with both the youth and our pioneer and literacy teams. So we made it much more cross-departmental as far as a priority to be out in the community, not just because, one, we believe we should be, and it's one of our strategic goals, but also because we're planning ahead for when we move back to the main library and start getting people used to the news of, one, where we are currently at the mall, and two, when we return to the library, what they can start expecting as far as programs and engagement and continuing that recruitment of new patrons in different areas for our return. So I'm very excited about all the different outreach events we've been doing, so I've added this as a section to our monthly report to the board. Any questions, comments?
I had a few. I'm so glad that you did include that oral history project because I was curious about that, and I'm not sure if either off the top of your head or if for the next meeting you have any update on that, like the number, because I know in past meetings we've talked about a target ideal goal of engagement for that particular project, and just was curious how that was going.
I think by next meeting I can certainly get us some figures as far as how many interviews have been done. I know they've been busy, and it's been very well received by those who do attend. I don't know off the top of my head how many have interviewed, but I know they have had several, and I'm looking forward to continuing to support this project even once the grant has officially been completed. And so I'll have that report to be able to give you what happened during the grant period. But now that we have the equipment, the processes, procedures, it's just going to be an ongoing, and we'll probably spread it out to be beyond just Latinos in Escondido, although that still remains a primary focus, at least for this year, because that is an underserved community. That is also a majority of our community. And I want to make sure that we capture those voices. But for example, one of our other staff made inroads into the Filipino community here in Escondido and North County, and I'm curious to see whether they'd be interested in also contributing to our oral history project or just contributing to the Pioneer Room. So again, it's an upside to our increase in outreach efforts where we can see more of our community and they can see more of what we can offer them.
Thank you. And one idea potentially, since now relaunching Español los Sábados, it seems like that could be a good pairing to have the oral history project there or nearby or around, just, because it would be, that population, some of those stories that we want to capture. So thank you. Another either note or potential idea is because it is interesting that we have the library and the mall for this particular holiday season. I don't know if this is through you, Reno, or through us with the board, but I feel like for the Friends of the Library, what could we do to help them ramp up sales just because they're going to be in a mall and sort of heavy trafficked in the holiday season? So just, I don't know, throwing out an idea there that, again, I'm not sure how that's facilitated to have conversations with friends through you or that, but seems like mall traffic, holiday season, sales, and trying to help them with their sales could be.
I don't know anything specific, but I do know that in the past we have shared on behalf of the Friends when they had sales at the downtown location. And so going up, what I can say for sure, we can help them post a reminder on our social media, and then I'd encourage the board to share that across your various channels, and that helps a lot as far as awareness. But we're always open to any suggestions, and I'm sure they'd be happy to get support.
Even signage marketing, like buy the friends, buy a book this holiday, or encouraging
Yeah.
sales. 'Cause
Reno, when is Friends monthly meeting?
They are the second Wednesday of each month. It
And-
varies. Sometimes it's the first, sometimes it's the second.
Yeah, and they've never had any issue with us attending one of their meetings.
Yeah, no.
Or anybody else, so.
Okay,
Yeah, I can
great.
certainly
Just feel like
forward
take
the
advantage
next
of being at
date.
the mall.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, just kudos, pause to read. I think my son just missed it yesterday. It was yesterday. It was a pause to read, but I saw also Reading to a Dragon that I hope to be able to make it out to tomorrow. So just exciting to see a lot of the relaunching of the programming. So kudos.
And as we talk about planning ahead, I'll mention that we'll have several fun events this month. I know for Dia de los Muertos, we'll have one of our local dance troupes that normally present at the downtown library, but we've been able to coordinate with them to have a performance at the mall, so they'll be able to have a nice big audience as compared to the smaller scale audience we might sometimes be able to have at the Pioneer Room, the Turrentine Room at the main library. So I'm excited for that.
It's just a comment that it's just nice to see the library representing at local events like the Grape Day Festival on a regular yearly basis. Makes a difference. So thank you to everyone that helps put those booths together. They do a great job, and the sentiment that I hear from those things are always positive. Yeah.
Thank you, Reno. Is the library experiencing any effects currently with the federal shutdown? I don't know if there's any grants or any money that we rely on in regards to that.
Thankfully, there hasn't been any impact from the federal shutdown on our operations. The reality is that most of the grants we now receive are state funded rather than federally funded. The last federally funded grant we received was the Play for All grant, which has concluded. And most library funding now in the state is provided by the state, in addition to, of course, their localities. But there isn't much grant funding from the federal government at this moment.
Got it. And previously, you had also mentioned with the increased registrations, having to purchase new library cards. Have we put any thought of maybe trying to mark this renovation and maybe updating the imagery of library cards? Just because on my feed, I've been seeing a lot of library cards have different, either for whatever month it's being celebrated, or some large milestone. And I don't know if maybe we can tie, I know we have that mural that's going to be happening, I believe we said maybe February, on the backside of the library, so maybe we can tie something relating to, I don't know what the cost associated is with that, but if we're going to be ordering new library cards, that may be something to think about.
We can certainly look into that. I'd want to coordinate with city marketing as well to make sure that we do something that's aligned with the special event and anything we might want to celebrate. I like the idea of the mural. I think that would be very neat. But I'm certainly open to, there's a number of libraries that have done that as commemorative or special editions of the library cards. It's certainly something we can afford in a small batch of, say, 500 or 1,000. Normally, our last order, for example, typically we buy around 2,000. That holds us up for most of the year. We did have to order 6,000 this next time because we are having a lot more cards than normal. So that's kind of the scale of what we purchase normally, but if we were to get 1,000 or so that are special edition and maybe work with getting some feedback from you, the board, the city, the community ideally about what they'd like to celebrate, maybe even vote, I think that would be a neat way of recognizing a new space and a newer library for Escondido.
Definitely. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Reno. We can go ahead and move on to the library use report. Who would like to go first?
Yeah, so family visited the library at the mall again. That's a tradition for us. And then also attended the community workshop, which helped get a lot of stuff resolved between the foundation and trustees, the city, and others so far. So it's good to see.
Also visited the library, and we'll just really give kudos to the, selection for kids and early readers, because my son is always checking out anywhere from 6 to 10 books each visit, and continues to just get fresh stuff there. I also wanted, as a library related, wanted to plug that Cal State San Marcos's Kellogg Library actually has a special zine exhibit going on right now. So zine is short for magazines, but it's kind of self-made ones that you can make, and it'll be there through December. So just library related, wanted to share.
We went to the children's library section, and it's dangerous for me going in there with my little one because something about the toys, the kitchen toys especially, I can't get him out of there. So it's a good problem to have. But I really, I think I even said this last time, I really like the layout of the library. I just feel like it's a lot easier to browse through the Spanish language books. I'm having a hard time remembering what in the second floor it looked like. It felt like maybe they were more spread out. So I really like that they're just kind of all bunched up together as like little kids, and then you got a little bit slightly older kids. So I really do like that selection.
Took my 2 5-year-old granddaughters, we didn't have much time, so they just wanted to wrestle and play with I don't know if it's a snake or a caterpillar or whatever, yeah. So they spent about 10 minutes beating the heck out of it, so.
Also visited the mall to go to Target and stopped by the library. But what was really cool, my daughter's into the Wings series books. So we looked on the shelf, but of course I'm sure they're all checked out because it's a very popular series right now. But we happened to walk past like a very open area, and they were doing, I think, like toddler times or story time for the kids. And it has such good visibility over in that open area where I think like Santa and the Easter Bunny usually set up. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's so cool. It's out of the library, had a lot of people around, and I could see how the programs are being successful with being out in the open area. And I'm happy to see I saw on social media the Pause to Reading was much more popular because I did visit it when it was at the library like 6-9 months ago, and it was upstairs in is it called Mitchell room? Turrentine room,
yep.
Thank you. The Turrentine room, and there was like 2 kids, like it was very not visible. And then being out in the mall, it looks like it'll be very popular, and then that gets people hooked for when it goes back to the library, they'll know about it. So great job on social media and getting the word out. I've been seeing a lot of marketing, so you guys are doing good.
Great. So I think that concludes our meeting for today. Our next meeting will be November 13th at 4 o'clock.